housing authorities across the country to make repairs and improvements. So they give you a little diagram to the right, and it tells you residents pay the rent. NYCHA makes you responsible for making repairs, managing the building, and collecting the rent, and which breaks down also the Section 9 funding, which comes from Congress, along with the rent subsidies, what they're saying helps NYCHA to operate. There's more people have the stigma that everybody in public housing pays cheap rent. Not true. Not true. Nope. I'm gonna give my household. My niece, college graduate from The Ohio State University, came back home, landed a job, Columbia University, working for the dean of admission. It's making 60,000, got a raise, promotion, working for the head of the medical department, interviewing student prospective candidates for medical school, as well as getting also the head of the recruitment department for the School of Medicine for Columbia. So my rent, she went from say 50, 60 to about 90, 110. So my rent shot up to $2,300. Where my brother and myself, who's multiple handicapped, we pay. It jumped up to $2,200. So we fit in what NYCHA calls the 1 percentile. So I received a letter stating that I died at night. First year was initial warning to let me know if I choose to stay. Second year, they'll call me in, I'll sign a new lease, and if I choose to stay, I would have to pay what it costs to operate my unit. I live in a 6.5 room apartment. For NYCHA to operate my unit, it's gonna cost us about $4,200 a month. That's what my rent will be. What they say it costs them to operate. So, she took her name off the lease. She went out, she found an apartment first in Washington Heights, down the block from her job. She could save money on car fare. She took her name off, went back down to $650. So that's a problem that a lot of people are facing, where people are being forced to make a choice. Do I deal with this or do I relocate? And a lot of the issues coming that we hear from the RAD and PAC program is residents, they're happy at first because it's more than what they were getting. Let's look at Matanzas. Under that particular conversion, Matanzas houses had 34 bath fitted trucks outside every day. So if you drove down Brook Avenue to get to Triborough or to get to a different part of the Bronx there, by all of the renovated by the piano district and all of that, what's that called? Well, we had Christmas thing. Yeah, over there, down there. It's like that's a world of its own. That area is coming up. The Bronx is booming. So all of the private contractors and management companies coming in, they have this thing where they're doing these beautiful facades. Matanzas only put a Band-Aid. I use the analogy, a butterfly Band-Aid, that little strip over a shotgun wound. And anyone knows about a shotgun shoots pellets. It makes you look like Swiss cheese. So that Band-Aid, won't begin to save or to help you in any form possible. So the residents complained, um, resident leaders, we rallied, we fought, we kicked, we screamed, we finally got hurt. Although the first upgrades came with Brooklyn, and I'm going to say International Towers in Brooklyn, where they decided that all conversions moving forward, they would go in and address the piping behind the walls. Before, all they were doing were putting new tiles, new appliances, um, but nobody's going in the walls to change the pipes, which is the grassroots cause of the mold, the condensation, which is causing the mold. Um, if a pipe broke in a wall, that's the only way they would go into the wall was to address that, fix, and then move forward. They would address that apartment back up, but everything else, instead of changing that line to avoid it, they decided that they wouldn't this particular round of rad impact. Now moving forward, where we're up to the second largest development in NYCHA's portfolio, which is Eden Wall houses. Eden Wall, in that contract, it states that the pipes will be changed behind the wall. So the residents are getting more.
Here's the question I have is when they're doing the conversion, so you talked about your place being a 6-bedroom, and not just one of the few affordable buildings that have like 4 bedrooms, 5 bed, like lots of bedrooms for people who have bigger families. When they're doing the conversions, are they keeping the units as size? Like, I know they resize families sometimes, right? But are they ever like turning a 6-bedroom into a 3-bedroom? You know what I mean?
The other units will stay in the right size. So
Okay.
let's add on to your question. You live in that 6-bedroom.
Yeah.
Your family is being relocated. Signing the necessary documentation states that NYCHA will relocate you to upgrade your unit, to fix your unit, and you will come back to that unit once it's finished. But what the point is, and the question that I wrote, a statement I wrote myself in the back, it says, what rights do you have during renovations? So it states that you will be relocated and then brought back, but it left up the key factor. You will be right-sized eventually. So me in that 6.5 room, it's 3 of us. But a lawsuit back from 2014, Almeida versus Rhea, states that you cannot force me to move out of that unit because I have an extra bedroom. You can request or ask, and if I chose not to relocate, and um, I chose not to relocate. Well, you can ask me, and I say no. I'm going to keep my unit. You can't force me. There won't be any penalties applied to me for not going. But if it's more than 1 bedroom, like a 2-bedroom, they can force you to downsize. So that lawsuit saved a lot of people. And we also use that lawsuit to help the seniors because at one point, seniors were being bullied. Forced downside because you had mothers that raised 2, 3 generations in a park. I'm gonna pick on Miss Pat. Miss Pat raised her children. Miss Pat raised her grandchildren. And Miss Pat raised foster children in her unit. That's home. Although they're not her biological children, she's raising them. Those are her children. So you're gonna force Miss Pat downsize because of what you identify as family, which that law was changed too with her this year.
So the thing is, so the foster parents count to me as children. I can't believe they do that. But if it's just three of y'all in a 6 bedroom,
Well, it's 4 bedrooms, 1.5 bath, living room, kitchen, so that adds up to
six
6 of
but
them.
they, well, that's whatever. But let's just say there was a one person in a 4 bedroom, right? Bedroom. The saying is like there's 200,000 people on the night wait list.
Oh, there's a million, but
Okay, there's a numerous number, there's a huge number of people on the night wait list. And if there's a family that needs a 4 bedroom, then that kind of feels like, you know what I mean? Like there's a,
it should be.
but it's but not the foster. Foster. I got it. But in the 1 bedroom, 4 person is, you know what I mean?
It should be some kind.
You ready? Yeah, I got 4 bedrooms. I'm the only person up here. My eighth house. It opened up in 1964. We moved over there for pastor when my father passed. Let's break this down because what we talk about basically is successor's rights. They mailed a letter to my mother a number of years ago for the downside department on the $5,000. She turned it down. I got a copy of it somewhere. They asked me to come on down there and downsize. And the first question came out, are you going to downsize the rent? They snatch it back. It goes down to successor's rights. As long as you got people on there as part of the family composition, and I read them court cases. Talking passed down, everybody that's down as part of the family. Ain't no damn thing they could do about it. So they can't force you out there that you got a family living there. What the hell they talking about? And not only that, and Bob, you know this too. Federal government is get out wants to get out of public house. Anytime you watch Good Times, you see that project up there, what they call it, Chicago gonna tore it down. All these guys gonna get out. The best, and they brought this issue up years ago. The best thing to do for public housing is to turn it over to tenants, to turn the co-op, and we own ourselves, and you have equity in it, not rent. I made that precedent over 30 years ago, and no resistance I got. I'm not gonna stop crazy. I'm not talking about rent. I'm talking about equity and ownership, and you run it yourself. Got a management office called bingo, your bank. It would also be what you call insurance. How many people actually got insurance? Very few had it. This way, it would pass on to those come behind it. And now it will stop holding out that homelessness. The mayor came up here to 180 last Thursday. Now I'm not goes up to about this so-called jail they want up there. It's nonsense. Well, solutions right there. All we gotta do is take around some terms of co-ops. Co-ops ain't nothing new. It's only in the cities where you got rental. Outside the city, it's home ownership.
I give it.
You can't even move out there because they got lawsuits going right now in New York State about how the counties of state are building houses. And the only way you're gonna get them houses that you got to know somebody who lives there or be a realtor, somebody already living there. That's the bottom line. You ain't getting there. So what we can do is just take on run ourselves. And the rent you pay right now will be eliminated and you paying less and make every month. So we bank on the side of the apartment. Very simple to me.
He's correct.
Right here. I was living in my haven since it's been opened up in 1964 in that same apartment. I got 4 bedrooms, 1.5 bathrooms. Even though when I'm married, I'm working by myself. Now I feel comfortable. When they all showed that paper in front of me about you got to downsize, as soon as I asked, well, you going to downsize the rent? They snatched the paper back.
All right.
Bingo.
All right, Mr. Francis. Thank you.
No.
Thank you for
We're in the war.
Thank you for the history. But Mr. Francis, you
I apologize if you
can't kidnap the Mr. Francis.
I apologize if
You are.
Oh yeah, one last thing, Mr. Bob. This I think you all take good look. This is our last week. What the city of New York is doing. They're talking about building affordable apartments on top of the library. One's gonna be in Inwood, other one's gonna be out in Brooklyn. I took a look at it and read it. That's why I do that question up to the mayor about how the hell you gonna put a jail hole there where the old Lincoln House used to be, and you cannot put a jail on top of the courthouse. Because and Percy Sutton came up and sent that seminar to us 30 years ago, difference between Carnegie Hall and Apollo Theater. Well, Carnegie Hall has a box on top, what the Apollo Theater does not. That's why they couldn't put the actually put the program. And they were going through a big fight. Same fight they're going through today.
All right.
All I'm saying right
Give
here
it
now,
back.
apologize to
Give
you.
it back.
But we're in the war.
You a historian, brother.
No.
Listen. Okay, listen.
Listen.
Listen to this.
Listen.
You are a historian.
You're not a historian.
You are. Because you give facts. And the facts that you're giving are concrete facts. And everywhere that we're going now leads back to the facts of where we came from. I was in a meeting the other day where somebody made this comment. I don't want to hear about what they used to do. I want to hear about the past. We're living in the future. A lady, she had to be at least 93 years old, turned and said, young man, I have to go home to take my medicine because I go to dialysis at 4 a.m. But if you think that you would be as abreast and as up with the future as you are now, young man, come walk a day in my shoes. You have to get from the past to get to the present. And you're 100% correct. NYCHA's residents, all the money that we pay into the rent, that's our equity. We could have owned our apartments. So HUD just changed another rule within NYCHA. When you add it to the family composition, it had to be your biological sibling. I couldn't put my cousin down as a family member. I couldn't put my niece down as a family member. It had to be my brother, my sister, that's it. Or son and daughter. It was a lawsuit in the South where the LGBTQ community sued the federal government and won. They sued HUD. So we just went through a process in NYCHA where we do the 5-year plan, and it was a significant amendment. The significant amendment is meetings that have to be held abruptly, and you have to put notices out to the public to let them know they have a hearing where it's publicized on NYCHA's website. So what happened as of January the 1st, 2024, the language changed for any housing in New York City. So Madam Attorney, you ready? I can add Delaney down as my cousin to my composition, to my family composition. And you can't stop. Thank you. Because HUD stated we cannot dictate what's family. Thank you. HUD even used the language to say, because it's not blood, sometimes it's others that are more family than the blood. So now I was able to add my cousin as a permanent family.
Sure, okay, I know.
That's not allowed under Section 8.
Yeah, I can understand. Okay, I have another question. Well, I know we should go to Pat, she hit all 3 because voting's on. But my question is this, you guys, is like, so I'm originally from Miami, Florida, you guys, right? Originally from Miami, Florida. And
Dade County Porker Bean Housing Projects. I know about Porker Bean.
so the goal of affordable housing in some faraway world is supposed to be like a step, right? You get in, you get out. And what I say is when I come to New York, forget even NYCHA, we have lifetime renters in New York. Like, even if you're not in public housing, you get a rent stabilized place, people are renting for a long period. And so when I hear about succession rights, I want that to work for people, but I also feel like we only have for NYCHA 171,000 units and some change, whatever. we have 1 million people on the wait list. And then we have, you know what I mean? Like, we're not graduating people out of NYCHA. But it's not only NYCHA, we're not graduating people out of renting in New York. I think New York does a really bad job at that.
Because the people have been systematically oppressed.
What's that?
They have been systematically oppressed. And the reason why I say that is because the system tells you that for your income, we're judged by a zip code. We're judged by a zip code. We're judged by not only the color of our skin, but where we live and where we come from. And that puts us into a place where we're not looked at as achievers. However you look at it, we're not. Because I started a company the other day for my brother that came home from the federal penitentiary. And inside the package, as I'm setting up the company, they said, do you want the mail service or you want to use your home address? I said, let's take the mail service. He has a post office box on Park Avenue. So you know that will enhance his business. And let him put an address in Hunts Point or here in the South Bronx. They're gonna look twice as they looking through his paperwork to hire him to perform any type of services. But because of Park Avenue address, he's automatically, oh, we gotta look at him, we gotta call him to see what he can offer us. We're judged by our zip codes.
What's that?
The public housing problem here is because so many people came into NYCHA that don't know housing. NYCHA had the best family social service department in the city of New York, where other agencies reached out to NYCHA social services department under a lady by the name of Norma Rasick. Norma, when she left NYCHA, the whole department, they took social workers to put them on the Rad Pack team, to have them go sell Rad Pack. Put them on the real estate team to have a social worker go and push Rad and Pack, private management. A lot of them didn't want it. Then you have these same social workers pushing this trust legislation. How can I trust you to do this and you're the sole proprietor of NYCHA's property, NYCHA? You're the sole proprietor of your own property. So now for you to create a whole new entity, a trust, and then the trust hires you, NYCHA, to do day-to-day operations. If you couldn't man up and stand up to your obligations with you, the sole proprietor, owning the property, what makes you think you're going to do a better job as someone being hired to be brought in?
Well, I just want to say in regards to the trust, which we haven't really broken down for people yet, is that the argument is that under Section 8, the government gives you more money than they do under Section 9. You know, that's what they're saying.
Yes, but and the only way you get more money under Section 8 than you do Section 9, because those are project-based vouchers.
Yeah.
And those vouchers are tied to the apartment. A lot of people think it's a Section 8 voucher that they can take and leave. It's not.
Under Rad and Pack, I heard that that's what it is, right?
No.
Oh, they're both.
They're both the same voucher, PPV, project-based voucher. And the only way you can get one of those traveling vouchers after a year of living in that unit, that project-based voucher unit, then you can have your name added to the Section 8 list. If Congress appropriates money for that particular voucher program, and you so happen to luck up and get one of those traveling vouchers to relocate, then they'll give you a voucher because they have them. But after that year, your name is on the list waiting.
But don't you also have to be accepted by wherever you might want to go? Like if you want to go out of the state or something, wherever you go, they have to accept you.
You mean the landlord has to accept you?
Yeah, before
Yes.
you can utilize that voucher anywhere outside of the state.
Yeah, you have to find a willing landlord.
You have to find a place that be willing to accept that particular voucher.
Because some people think they can like go down south or go somewhere and they have that voucher and they can use it, but it's not like
Yeah.
that.
I mean, depending. But to be clear, if you have a section, first of all, Section 8 voucher, just in case everyone here does not understand what it is when it's a federal dollars that helps you pay your rent. Okay, and there are two types of Section 8. I didn't even know that into this Brad pack. One, Section 8 is very familiar. You can take it to any private landlord if they accept it. It's just based on the landlord, not the state. You can take it to any landlord. If they accept it, it will cover a certain percentage of your rent. Okay. Now, PPV Section 8 is so that NYCHA residents can stay in a NYCHA unit and it will pay the rent, because Section 9 means the government is your landlord and it's like for the building. And PPV is just for
Not pay the rent.
help
The
pay.
PPV voucher is so NYCHA can leverage extra money on that unit.
Yeah, they can like finance it, get
So
bonds.
did I lose anybody?
Oh, yeah.
Did I lose anybody? Because it's complicated. Herman, come on, Herman, they don't know about it. Let me explain it. Let me explain it. Because a lot of them is new to nature, and I'm looking at people's face. I don't look for what a person says.
Yeah.
I look at your facial affect. Because your mouth will say a lot of things, but your face will tell the truth. So this is why I keep looking at you guys, because I want to make sure that you understand it. And if you don't know, ask questions. I'm a different committee chair than anybody else. I don't care about the committee. I do. I love those committee members. Don't think I don't care about you. I love you. Y'all mean the world to me. Y'all know y'all can come, y'all can call me, I'm there. Oh, some people gotta come look for me, hound me down, and they know how to get me.
Yes.
Well, but basically it comes down to pay somebody else do what we can pay ourselves to do. That's basically what bottom line is.
But Herman,
I understand what you're saying, I look at it like this, but they really support.
Herman, I'm gonna cut you off, Herman. We're lazy. We're lazy.
All of us are not the same.
But listen, a lot of us are lazy because I can take you. I can take you to 5 developments.
Yes,
We won't leave a 20-mile radius of this community. We won't. And I can take you to these 5 developments. And I'll pull out my phone and start making phone calls and say, come downstairs. And listen, young man, did you take that job I gave you?
Nope.
Yeah, he took it. He in local 79 now.
Okay, cool.
That's that other young man. Oh no, I gotta go back and get my SST. And gotta get my flat. Young lady, did you finish the class? Yeah, you sent us to the apprenticeship program. We graduated. They just got sponsored in the union yesterday. They working right now. They happy, $42.50 an hour. Davis Bacon wages. And they get their fringe benefit. Their fringe benefit check is $37,000 when they finish.
It was our grass on that. Here's what gets nasty.
Okay.
Oh, no, digest this for a minute and see how we get there.
But you gotta stay on.
Don't say no point. Now, this is report. So that New York City is the second most expensive city in the world to live in. The most expensive city in the world to live in is Hong Kong. Now, keep in mind that more than half the houses is rental. But the federal government will guarantee a mortgage for a house if you move outside the state. They did that when they built the suburbs after World War II. And you know what happened after World War II when they built the surface, when they built 11,000 Garden City out there, and they guaranteed the mortgage for bingo. When they started public houses in the 30s, because one reason the rent was too high, the city workers could not afford the rent. So that's when they started development of the suburbs, the building house, and the federal government guaranteed the mortgage, which was cheaper than rent that was being paid. But I know what my relatives had to fight to go to get a house out there in Hillsdale, Long Island, in among other areas. Now that fight and war is still going on today. But I remember working with no forces about the lawsuits. The people that own a house could not use their house as collateral as a down payment to buy a second house. So most people, they do not have the down payment to put on for the house. And when it comes to close the place to close the property, they don't have that closing paper either. That's what that cash, but the federal government guarantees that, but it has some kind of clause here for the exclusion people.
You gotta understand the
Yes,
federal government has failed us in all aspects.
Yeah, I know that.
And it's not just the federal government.
Boring said it.
The federal government has failed us by not funding public housing in its totality.
Yes.
By not giving a lot of
It's run like a
people
plantation.
and whatnot. So that's how the federal government failed us. The state failed us because housing is funded by the feds, built by the state, and operated by the city.
Thank you. Run like a plantation.
All three entities of government has failed the people.
Thank you.
All three entities of government sit and play the pointing game and the finger game and the blame game. All three entities of government tells each other, oh, well, it's their fault. It's their fault. The scaffolding is still up in New York City because the city council allows it. The only person that can change that, to remove the scaffolding from NYCHA, and they just had a hearing about the scaffolding. And they grilled NYCHA. And I looked back the other day at the hearing, how they brutally attacked NYCHA about the scaffolding, but it's the city council that governs the scaffolding. It's called Local Law 11. They make the rules. The elected officials and everybody run off the back of the residents of public housing. They make promises that they know that they cannot keep.
So you're saying all those scaffolds that's all across the developments?
The city council can change the rules to have that scaffolding removed. It states in the rule, local law rule, the scaffolding is only supposed to be up for 90 days. If the job isn't done within the 90 days, they can apply for an extension.
And
An
that's
extension is 30
money
days.
that's being wasted.
Exactly. So now we have the money. So when the residents went to Albany, the governor gave over, when she gave the money for ERAP, she also gave money to fix roofs, elevators, boilers. She gave some hundreds of millions of dollars to start this work. And I know for a fact, because my development has been up for 12 years, and today was the first day that they started doing the brickwork. The very first day.
So it's really gonna happen.
So
this
it's
time.
really happening. But now we have a new fight with the mayor giving 90 million, city council giving 14 million, then the mayor taking $104 million back.
You only gave 90.
Hey, but he took back from the city, what the city council gave. So it totaled up to 104, and that money was earmarked for capital projects already. So now those projects will get pushed to the side
Again,
again. So now the mayor is giving out debit cards to the migrants.
with our money.
$10,000 on the debit card. And if you're a family of three, you get 15,000
Oh, for a year?
for yeah, it's a year.
Oh,
You get 15,000 a year for a family of three. So you can't fund. You promised the people that you ran that you were going to do this and you were going to do that. You promised the people that you would make housing a safer and better place to live. You have not kept your word as the mayor. Haven't. You took the money back. It's like I'm taking from Peter to give to Paul.
in the budget meeting, I saw that they took some money for rehabs. There was a money in rehab. So there's like, there's like over 9,000 units, estimated, but 9,000 units that are like vacant with nobody in them because of like deplorable conditions. So, you know what I mean? But there's a lot of people waiting to get into an apartment. But there was like this money for rehab, and then in the budget, that that's the discussion. Um, they took away the money. They said they did a NYCHA swap for the capital fund. So I say this because if he's taking the 104, and if you want the 104 back, what is the advocacy of giving it back? I mean, just the proposed
I said,
budget, but that's not true.
man, nobody see what we have to learn is when our elected officials, keyword, elected officials.
So Jane, as to the migrants, he claimed that they cost us like $1 billion, right? That's what he claimed. He's our mayor. Yeah, website $1 billion. Hochul, I don't know where she got the money from. I assume feds gave him back plus more for the migrant costs. That is clear. That's on the internet. Like it's very easy to find that what he has spent on migrants, he has received back from the government, from the state. Okay. So I don't know where he's talking about budget cuts. So that means if we want the 104 back, shouldn't we be like, when we talk about action items, like, shouldn't we be telling Salamanca, Ayala, like we want them to reject that proposed cut? They override him all the time. It's not the first time they're going to override him. The budget and the city council are very, you've been here for decades, they're always fighting.
Yeah.
So if we want it back, can we just ask for it back?
What you ask for and what you get in life are always two different things.
That part,
The governor didn't write this last budget. The governor didn't write it. Carl Hasties, Andrea Stewart Cousins,
okay, so we have
Stokes.
state legislators. We can talk to them. The budget.
They cut my world out.
They didn't cut you because you're still a constituent.
They cut
You still
NYCHA.
vote.
They cut NYCHA out of it.
But you still vote. I'm not in NYCHA. I can still tell my I'm a voter.
But the thing is we can, in life, our parents taught us, you can talk till we blue in the face. You can argue a point until the cows come home. Unless the person on the other end that you're arguing with has the same empathy of what you're fighting for, it won't go anywhere. It's like going on deaf ears.
I understand that. But I'm saying, this is what I said for Hakeem in Education and Youth. We can write a letter as Community Board 1 that has some of the highest concentration of NYCHA housing in their district, that we believe this is important to the constituents here, and that this is what we want. And then, I could draft it up, and then we can send the sample letter to the other CBs, Community Board 3, so they have a lot of, but they might. And then that will become not a NYCHA thing, because I can care about NYCHA even if I've never slept in one. I know how many people it protects. The clients I have there, I know it to be the forced guard for people who are 80% below the AMI. So I'm saying, in regards to, I don't know if no one's going to read the letter. I agree with you. But the fact that CB1, who probably ain't never sent a letter in a long time, is sending a letter, that looks good. I'm concerned about, for Hakeem, DYCD cuts. I've drafted letters for everything, so someone needs to approve them, but eventually, of course, someone will
Yeah,
approve them.
see,
That's gonna be say something. They cut off nitrogen, they didn't cut me off. Our board is 54 people, which represents a bigger group of people, and we vote. We vote.
But they
we
don't,
are between a rock and a hard place. I'm a poll worker. This car back here has one of those supposed to turn out in the entire city.
You gotta give the chair, let him chair his meeting. What I asked, I'm gonna take the, you gotta let him chair his meeting. He asked you 4 times to hold until he calls on you. You have to give the chair, you have to let him chair his meeting.
there's nothing wrong with writing. This committee can sit down and formulate a letter. We could formulate a letter and we would have to send our letter to the acting secretary of HUD. Because there is no current secretary of HUD. I mean, my sister, my buddy,
Is that
my friend.
She resigned.
Effective immediately. Matter of fact, Friday, so Thursday's her last day. Thursday's the last day. She said it was a pleasure working with you. I love you. If you ever in Ohio, heck with my personal number, don't give it to nobody. Call me. We'll do lunch. I'm going to visit her. I'm going to Columbus.
Oh, just
I'm gonna meet her in Columbus, College Town.
prior
But,
to the letter with the
A letter.
beginning?
It's a beginning. And we've tried a lot of different things. We tried a lot. We've come a long way. Somebody asked me, do you support Rad Impact? No, I don't support Rad Impact. The reason why Daniel Barber does not support Rad Impact, because there's still too many things that goes on in this program. If you look at it, if I lived in public housing for 50 years and you introduce a program to me and you tell me we're making this massive conversion tomorrow and you don't explain nothing to me about it, I'm lost. We could walk right around the corner, 156th Street, St. Anne's, Bronx, Chester houses. That was a part of NYCHA. It was a Section 8 development. We downtown in a resident advisory board meeting about 8-9 years ago, and on the computer, on the screen, it popped up Bronx Chester Rad Pack conversion. The TA president at the time said, I said, Patty, they about to privatize y'all. Y'all don't know what y'all about to get. She said, oh no, they said, oh no, that's a mistake. A month later, we came back, she was private. She was on the list. They started the conversion. CNC L&M and CNC Management. Sorry, they're horrible. They're just as bad as Wavecrest. Oh, sorry, Susan. I mean, it's at a point in life where with them, they didn't tell the people under Section 9, you get hot in your house, you can go outside and sit on the bench and cool off. Under them, their conversion, residents come downstairs because it's hot in the house. You got 10 minutes from security to vacate the premises or your house gets a demerit.
What?
You get a ticket. You get 3 tickets, you can put you in court for eviction. They never show. We used to live in one way. You can't tell me this is how I live, and then because you decide to abandon me and put me in a different program, now all of a sudden you never prepared me for this program. The parks literally close at dusk. So when the sun goes down, the park's locked. If I'm waiting for a cab, I'm allowed 15-minute grace period for my cab. Anything longer than that, I get a ticket.
what do they do with these tickets?
Well, wait a
They
minute.
go against the household.
How's that legal? If you're waiting.
It's a private management company. have the right to operate as they choose. to
Or just
operate.
Is that a danger?
limited.
That is a danger with a lot of residents, because if you look at Matanzas, when they did Matanzas, you had the president complaining that one group was loving it, and district manager shaking his head. The district manager knows for a fact. And Matanzas, the president was complaining, oh, Danny, a lot of them don't like it. They don't want to be here. They say this, they say that. But then if you look on the other hand, you had a group of residents that I inquired to, oh, we love it. The repairs are getting done and whatnot. To what effect? You no longer have night shift after 4 o'clock. So you have to call the super or the other number provided. If they get to you, they get to you. If they don't, tomorrow's another day. So it's a lot that people haven't been prepared for.
And still not carrying.
That's okay.
And then with that relocation, because once they doing the work now, all units, you have to be relocated. Because 90% of nitrogen was built back when they used asbestos as insulation. So if right now, current time, if a resident puts in for tiles have to be tested before you can even call a vendor in to provide new tiles. If you call them for paint and you got peeling paint, the paint curl up, that's lead paint. They'll tell you that. I learned that the other day.
Let me ask you something. So what you're saying is that you can't have, from what I'm gathering, you can't have effective repairs or timely repairs without necessarily giving up, because people want repairs, right? If you go for this program or one of these programs, right? I gotta read this. You're giving up your power, a little, some of your tenant protections for the repairs to happen. So why can't this be drafted in a different way? Or at least take into consideration, because nitro's so big, I don't know how this works. Is there like borough specific division? So the developments that are in the Bronx go through things that are only in the Bronx. You don't have to wait, for things to happen in Brooklyn or Queens or in Manhattan to get things done in the Bronx.
I wish it was that.
So why doesn't that get, drafted into, because if the main concern is repairs, then let's focus on the repairs instead, and not give up our tenant protections just so we can live peacefully.
Because what they're trying to say is the repairs cannot get completed due to the fact of the matter of the money, not a dollar for a dollar being funded to NYCHA by Congress. My thing is we've never went to Washington to ask the congressional delegation. In the past, as Mr. Francis will refer to, in the past, when we've gone to Washington, Ms. Pat knows because she's on the bus, we go and we solicit. We solicit the elected officials. And it's not just New York, it's a national campaign. So you have New York, you have Miami-Dade County, you have Jacksonville, you have New Orleans, Miss Cynthia Wiggins, you have Tennessee, God bless, Miss Peaches Manning, who put together a forceful team of women. When these women from Tennessee walk in the room, you giving them the money. And then you got in Philadelphia, you got Asia Coney. Then you have Charlottesville, Virginia, you have Miss Joy. So these are pioneers. These are women who've been doing this for 40, 50 years, who paved the way, who took a young Black boy like me and taught him. In 2000, when I came into this, I was wet behind the ears. I didn't know a Section 9, a Section 8, a Section 2, a Section 3. I didn't know none of that. These women educated me to make me knowledgeable as I am today. So, yeah, I pass it on. I love talking to Delane. I love it. She could talk. I plugged it in with somebody I know that she said to me, yo, she can talk. Why you didn't tell me that? I plugged it in with Miss Forbes to give her
Maria.
education on and found somebody that had her beat. But she wants her mind. She's young. She wants her mind to soak up all of this because in her field as an attorney, as she stated, a lot of her residents come from public housing. A lot of her residents are being faced with this rad pack. And then the last portion of it, we did the Section 9. Section 9 is what we got now, what we're trying to fight to keep. And I think for our next meeting, I'm gonna reach out to someone who's a board member here and ask her to come and present. Ramona Ferrera, same Section 9. And I'm gonna ask her if she could if we could probably take it to Lincoln, she can see like if we have questions that we can put together for Ms. Ferrera to ask her why is it important to same section. And these are frequently asked questions.
At a meeting tonight.
Yeah, and a lot of these questions don't get asked. They don't get asked, and it's a lot of people they feel they don't know the right questions to ask. The right question to ask is the question that comes to your mind. The dumb question is the question that you didn't ask. So, it's the last portion. So we did Section 9, talked about RAD and PAC. The last one. The last one was fantastic. So before we touch the last one, the residents only had one option, RAD or PAC.
There's no vote. We talked about.
Yeah, we already told them, no. If you're gonna think about something, you can begin to think about the preservation trust, but you can't trust everything that's being presented in the preservation trust. Same lady that I plugged Ms. Delaney in with was at a meeting at the Classic Center. We were talking about the preservation trust. NYCHA was doing the presentation. We went out into working focus groups. Ms. Forbes asked the question. With the relocation, NYCHA's VP for intergovernmental answer, Mr. Brian Holden answers the question. Me, I don't care. You can sue me. I got lawyers. I'm gonna call a name because in the conversations that I have, I want you to know who I spoke to get to where I'm at. And Delaney said, she'll represent. She know I'm broke. Ms. Forbes asked this question. With the relocation process, does the resident have the right to return? Mr. Honan says, yes. And I told him, this is why I don't support RAD and the trust legislation. I hate RAD and PAC. I can't trust. He said, why? I said, because you automatically told Ms. Forbes that they go back to the unit, right side, to that unit. No, but you didn't leave, you left out the crucial part that you will be right sized. So if you're living in that, let's go back to that 6.5 room apartment, which is 4 bedrooms, 1.5 bath, and a kitchen, and the living room rather. So it's a living room, that's 5 rooms, 1.5 bath, that's 6.5 rooms. What they're not telling you is I go back to that unit and we don't have the right amount to fill all those bedrooms. After we return back, then the trust under NYCHA, they were right sized. When NYCHA used to right size you under Section 9. NYCHA would say, well, you had XYZ members of your family move out. The family composition was 6 people. Now it's down to 3 people. So we need to move you from that 6.5 room, maybe to a 4 bedroom. Where you'll get maybe 2 bedrooms, a bathroom. And a living. It's 4 bedroom apart. Which would be more suitable for your family. But the rent will still probably be the same. Because of the fact of the matter that each person in that household is bringing in an income. Whether it's Social Security, disability, pension, child support, it's an income. It's 30% of that income, of each income. Let's calculate. This is when people get confused when they say, oh no, you only can do 30%. Yes, correct. But it's 30% of each income coming in. That's why public housing is no longer affordable. Because if what's affordable and the words, terminologies have to be changed. Because in life, what's affordable for the board members of Community Board 1 may not be affordable for the community members of Community Board 1. We have to start looking at the word languages that we use when we describe things. We have to start really taking into mental thought about how we present things to people. If you know one way of living your entire life and this other way of living is being forced onto you, you're going to be resistant to take the new thing that's being pushed, although it might be the best thing in the world for you. But you're going to be resistant. You're going to have kickback to it because you don't know enough about it. What we all want in life is change. But the biggest thing that we fear in life is what we want, change. We know what we have, but we don't know what we're about to get. That's that change that makes us reluctant to want to move forward when we know it's the best thing and what we've been begging for. So, the New York City Public Housing Preservation Trust, often called the Trust, is a government agency that was created by New York State law in June 2022. It functions like other agencies that have been used for many years by New York State and City to build and develop subway and bus systems, libraries, public hospitals, public schools. That's where they got the idea from. From the SCA, the School Construction Authority, from the MTA, and all of them. What makes this model unique is that it's required to be accountable, transparent. NYCHA doesn't know what accountability is or transparency. The main way this happens is through its governing board. The governing board is publicly appointed by NYCHA and the mayor. It has 9 seats. 2 are for NYCHA executives. 1 is for the New York City Deputy Mayor of Housing. 4 are for NYCHA residents. 1 is for a labor representative chosen by NYCHA's trust employees. Now, the 4 that's chosen by the residents, the CCOP chair is supposed to pick those.
What is CCAP?
CCOP, Citywide Council of Presidents. Citywide Council of Presidents is, we have local developments, where within the local developments, it formulates districts. So this would be the South Bronx. So the South Bronx District Council, which I'm also a member of, and Ms. Pat, I'm also the president of the South Bronx District. I was elected by Ms. Pat and the rest of our peers. At the time, it was 36, but now it's 18 because 36 from 18 is what? Okay, they went rad and pack.
So if they're riding pack, they can't be part of you guys?
They have no decision making or no voting rights. They can come to the meetings, they can still present issues that they're having with the private management to me, the chair. And I will write an email to NYCHA discussing their issues to get things done. Example, resident in Edenwald. Edenwald's already gone. L&M CNC took over. Resident has been begging for assistance before they took over.
Isn't that half of Eagle
For the whole project, whole development. So the resident been complaining about her walls, the floors. The floors are lopsided, literally. She's a senior. She had 2 knee replacements, it's a hip replacement. It's a tripping hazard. L&M CNC went in, was appalled. Place got plastered already, place is painted. The vendor will be in next week for the tiles. They're trying to get them to come this week. They're trying to maneuver it so her house can be done for Easter when she has over 200 people walking in and out of her apartment because her whole family's coming. And I'll be back from down south and I'm going to get me some pollo guisado and my ensalada de pulpo. But it's like the residents aren't trained. If NYCHA did a series of teaching and showing the residents where they're coming from to the different rules of where they're going, it might be received a lot different.
I thought they go to the TA
Some of the
and ride pack, they go to the TA.
I don't want to say something, put my foot in my mouth, but my name is Danny Barber. I do that all the time. A lot of us are old. A lot of us are old, lost the fight. A lot of us are old. A lot of us really don't know how. You literally making sure that the recording
Working.
is actually working, so he's watching in real time as we go through it, so that's why you get the feedback, but it's understandable. But, NYCHA, it says here about NYCHA being transparent. NYCHA being accountable. If NYCHA was to take a step forward and really sat down in these meetings, when they do the introduction of these different programs that they want to present to its residents, tell them that it's a difference. What you used to doing, what you can do now are different. But the private management companies isn't gonna tell NYCHA how good they get with their rules and policies and their procedures. So everything changes. The only thing that stays the same under RAD, PAC, and the trust, is NYCHA does your recertification.
And 30%.
NYCHA tells you what you're gonna pay for your rent to the private management company. Because they still handle all of the research for HUD and all of that stuff. So let's finish this. So it says two seats are from the mayor's executive, one is from New York City deputy mayor, 4 are from NYCHA residents. NYCHA's only filled, take 2 resident positions on the trust.
They're looking for applicants now, aren't they?
Yes, one is from a labor representative chosen by NYCHA's trust employees. And one is for an at-large general public member chosen by NYCHA. You don't have to be a resident. You just be at-large member. NYCHA might say, hey, Mr. Learning, we like you, we want to put you on the trust board. How does the trust work? Under the New York City Public Housing Preservation Trust, there are 3 groups involved, NYCHA, trust, and the residents. You, the residents, pay 30% of adjusted household income and rent each month. If you've been paying less than 30% of your household income because of the flat rate the flat rent policy, under the trust, your rent will go up to 30% of your adjusted income. Ask NYCHA what your rent would be under the trust. NYCHA owns the buildings and land that the development is on. NYCHA manages the property. The annual and interim recertification process and distributes the Section 8 project-based vouchers, PPV. NYCHA leases the development to the trust under a 99-year lease for $1. NYCHA does that with, the city does that with all of its entities. These enormous years of renting to them for $1.
Community centers,
The leasing agreement between NYCHA and the trust is what allows NYCHA to convert funding from Section 9 to Section 8. So the money that it's getting is coming through those vouchers. It says how the trust funded. Once a development is leased to the trust receives Section 8 project-based vouchers instead of Section 9 funding. Like PAC, the vouchers bring more money through subsidies into each development. Buildings are funded using Section 8 project-based vouchers and resident rent payments. The trust can also access bank bonds, private loans, and tax credits. All of that is what they're gonna access for the trust. It said, what makes the difference? It said, what makes this different from RAD and PAC? There is no private landlord manager involved with the trust. The trust has a board that works together to make decisions about the development. The board includes NYCHA leadership, NYCHA resident leaders, labor representation, and the local government representative. NYCHA will continue to manage and develop. It says, how are repairs made under the trust? The trust will be responsible for repairs. The trust has more flexibility than NYCHA to hire contractors, make repairs, and access multiple types of funding. The flexibility can improve the quality of work and decrease the length and cost of repairs. NYCHA will be hired by the trust to manage the property and oversee maintenance projects that have piled up over the years. The scope of repairs for the NYCHA Preservation Trust isn't confirmed. The goal is to get developments back to decent conditions, but what that means isn't clear yet. And in the back, they got questions. What rights do the residents have? And it breaks it down basically under each program. Section 9, you'll see the residents have the most rights out of any of them. It says submit claims. So under Section 9, NYCHA residents can't call 311. Under RAD and PAC, you can. Under the trust, you can't. Keep my job, and if I work in a development, that's up for a vote. Section 9 is yes, PAC is no, trust is yes. So a lot of things that you couldn't do under Section 9, they allow you to do under the trust because they kind of like grandfathered them, written them in to the contract so that they move forward with the turnover of this new program, which my biggest fight of the trust is, like I stated earlier, if you're the sole proprietor of a property, nobody else answers. What makes you think that to be hired by a new entity of yourself, that's created by yourself, how are you going to be transparent and accountable truly to the people? Yes.
Okay, so just to not be biased, Danny, But NYCHA mismanages stuff, but they also don't get enough money. So the goal of the trust, so I don't know if you guys know this, NYCHA cannot pull private loans like PAC and the trust will can. NYCHA cannot pull private loans. And so the trust allows them to get more money and they're not answering to themselves. 4 of them are NYCHA residents that is on the trust, so they are answering to the trust.
It's a 9-member board.
For
The mayor. Okay,
We
so
don't
that's
have-
4. Listen, let's be for real. Be for real. Let's be honest, let's be transparent with each other. You got a board of 9, 5. That's 9, 10 of us here on this board. Well, we're gonna omit Mr. Jordan. Mr. Jordan. It's 9 of us on this board. Mr. Jordan is the mayor. He appointed those 5 sitting out there. 4 of you chosen by me, the residents. Which way is this board?
Okay, I hear what you're saying.
Answer my question.
Well, if the 5 if they vote with the mayor, you're outvoted.
outvoted.
Yeah, they're gonna be outvoted.
And this is how politics is. This was set up that the residents did not have a choice to win from the door. If you look at it, residents for so many years only had one choice, Brad and Pat. Then you came up with this. So now the residents have 3 choices. Brad Pack, trust legislation, or stay Section 9 and wait for money to come in to get you.
And 2, they're selecting the residents that sit on that board.
Yeah.
Who do you
So
think they're gonna pick?
you're stacking the board to pick you. So me, Andrew Jackson, he did a mock vote. NYCHA came out with HUD, did a presentation. This was April of last year. Residents said in the meeting, and it's sad because everyone states once the vote hits the floor, everyone now says we weren't properly reached out to. No one told us that there was going to be a vote. I've only been trying to tell you for the past 4 years what's happening. I get the same 10 people at my tenant every month. The buildings are flooded with flies. If the people don't come out, they'll stop you in the street to give you a laundry list of complaints. But nobody, but your senior citizens, don't come out to get the information. And they're coming out late at night, rain, snow, sleet, shine. You don't even have no food to feed them. And they still coming. But you, a young, able-minded young man, all your faculties. She suffered from dementia and she got Alzheimer's. But they still coming. But you 2 young people will complain about the community every day and all day and won't step up to do your democratic process to make where you live better.
They don't even come to hall meetings.
So, but to be clear, not to be a little, so number 1, I just feel like I need to stress this because this is the shockingest part of this. For Rad and PAC, there is no vote.
There is no vote.
NYCHA talks to what I think is TA, I don't know, and then they just pick you and they just go. You only get a vote if you are
Trust.
for trust, and you get to vote for the trust, Rad PAC, or Section 9. Okay. Now, when the trust, which is a state legislation, gives you 100 days of education, and then these organizations who seem to have written this book, help write this book, Legal Aid, CSS, they help knock on doors for the people who won't come to the meeting They go and they help knock on doors to help educate people. But it's a very complicated thing, so I don't know, how well the education is presented. But the thing is, I want to say about Safe Section 9 is, Danny, and for other people who love Section 9, is when someone has lopsided floors. Right now, mold, pipes breaking. I don't know when we're all gonna organize and go to DC to fight HUD to get money. So sometimes people are picking the best immediate option, which is the trash. What is happening? Which is the trust. That's why I think the trust gets a lot of votes.
Illness. That's what affects public housing.
Yeah,
But.
Yeah.
Okay.
but I think that's why people go with the trust, because it seems like it's not the fastest ride path, it's the fastest way to get money, isn't it? For repair. So that's why they go there.
It's a gold mine. There's a thing called development fees. Development fees, if you look it up, right? You Google, what are development fees? Google will tell you development fees are fees that are made from the project. So look at the building that was on 137th Street in St. Anne's, that was built on NYCHA's property, Millbrook Houses. That was a parking lot. They took the parking lot. I remember the fight. Like it was yesterday, sitting with the TA president in meetings for a whole 2 years. Which Fish came in. Which Fish owns Borinquen Court on 138th Street. Mr. Francis referenced the mayor came last week. Okay, so they built this big, beautiful building, and young lady that was a resident leader that went and started her resident-owned business was safety brand. And whatnot said, ask for development. So when we acquired, NYCHA looked at us like, they know about that streaming money. A couple of $100 million that's made between NYCHA and the developer split. That money's supposed to go back to upbuild that community, to provide resources. NYCHA say they did not create the fund for public housing because of that and whatnot, but it's supposed to go to nonprofit organizations to bring services and resources back to that community where that building was erected, came up at. The development is able to get development fees now after a fight between the president, myself, and NYCHA, and a whole lot of, well, then you won't get a delivery of cement today because the residents want the money to come back into their community. So the resident leader is able to work with NYCHA to direct where those development fees will be best suited. So if she has buildings where she wants to get the whole building retiled, those development fees can be used for that to beautify that building. She wants the landscape done over outside of the buildings, she can get the necessary contractors to come in. Also process, submit it, she'll review them with the manager and super, and she'll pick the best one that she likes and submit it in, and NYCHA moves forward to get the work done for them. They pay for it.
So I think that's great, because I reached out to Fifth Avenue Committee. They're the one when Carroll Gardens, Wyckoff and Guana's housing is in Carroll Gardens. When Carroll Gardens got rezoned, they did a lot of what you're talking about, development fees. And that was a $200 million kickback for Wyckoff and Gowanus for their maintenance and repairs.
And it's funny that you use that as a reference because the young lady that taught about the development fees was the former TA president of Wyckoff Gardens.
Yeah, Fifth Avenue Committee's been doing that stuff.
So now she started her own business. Was she doing OSHA training? Took it a step further and did it on the national level, where they taught her hazardous materials, biohazardous waste, and all of that. That's where the money's at. And she's come back to New York to train public housing residents on biohazardous chemicals. If that's not an economic opportunity or a sustainable opportunity for you to be able to say, I've reached the goal where I no longer have to be generationalized on staying in public housing because I can't go no place else. With those trainings that this young lady was able to provide to these residents were able to step up. These residents were able to be sustainable, to go out and look, to get, to move their families out, to open up that particular unit, to put it back on that waiting list. So that 2-3 dozen that she trained took those economic opportunities, strived. The moon was the goal, and that's what they reached for. And they grabbed the moon.
I really understand that. What I want to make sure we know as a community board is that when rezoning happens, when people want to build stuff, whether that's on NYCHA property or whatever, if it is in our district, they come to us.
Process.
And we need to make sure that we are negotiating for those development fees, for those community bargaining affairs, whatever they're called, to make sure that people have repairs. Because I am very keen Save Section 9 if I know that we did a redevelopment or whatever, and there's a kickback coming to somebody's house. You know what I mean?
Let's use better language.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Listen, I'm afraid of moving.
Yeah, rezoning funds. Yeah. Rezoning funding, community bargaining agreement funding, rezoning funding, development fees, community bargaining agreement funding to then develop these units, because we know there's been a lot of redevelopment happening and rezoning. And I think there was missed opportunities for those public housing in that area to, get necessary funding for those,
But it don't work like that. Development fees works for the development where the work is being done. So I can't, if the work is being done, Mitchell, My Haven, Patterson, your Millbrook. If the work is being done, Miss Patterson, I can't take it from Miss Pat. Put it inside
Okay.
Mitchell, Mon Haven, and Millbrook. It has to be used for Patterson's.
Okay, I gotta read more into it because
That's the crazy thing, because in each light, every development can use that come up.
how about the sky rights? Am I saying
Air
it?
rights.
Air rights, thank you.
NYCHA owns. If you notice, NYCHA makes billions of millions, and I think it's billions. They making millions of dollars because NYCHA's been selling the tickets.
What is it doing with it? What is it doing with the billions of dollars?
I don't know what. It's like trying to, with NYCHA sometimes, you can't believe what they tell you. And whatnot. And I'm not gonna beat them up to the fact to say that they all that bad, because they'll come around if you know what you're talking about, and they see they can't run the okie doke or get the Hollywood shuffle off on you. Then NYCHA will come to you half what transparent. Then you have to read in between lines. I mean, it's become like we become masters as residents on reading in between the lines.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear that the residents are not doing this by themselves. Because when I reached out to this organization in Wickham and Gowanus, she was like, Fifth Avenue Committee is a nonprofit, and they're like the community board with the TAs and elected officials were able to get an area that was only commercial zoning, but then got residential kickback to that. I mean, not kickback, but sorry.
That same lady that I referenced, she was able to sit at the table, negotiate the Barclay.
I'm telling you, I used to live there for 7 years in that neighborhood.
She sat at the table.
It's only $1 million properties around
She
there.
sat at the table. She helped to negotiate the Barclay. She was able to give back to the resident developers. And she just didn't choose Brooklyn. She chose citywide. So resident people that she knew, if she did work in that negotiation, there was events where the Barclay would set up for public housing for certain events. So she would call and say, Mr. Barber, for your district, I have 150, 200 tickets. I have 1,000 tickets. I'm gonna go each borough and I'm gonna give up, say, see, I got 5,000 tickets. I want to give each borough 1,000 tickets. So that will be 500 in the south, 500 in the north. And that's not because of Mr. Barber. That was because of Ms. Nimmons, who sat at the table and had the seat at the table to negotiate. Could have only thought about her community, but thought about a community of public housing on the whole. And that's what we need to learn to start to do. It's not just a Bronx fight. It's not a Manhattan fight. It's a public housing fight. Yes.
Can we take questions or comments from?
Yes, I definitely want to.
Yes. One of my questions, I want to go back to like that educational piece. It's just like, as a community board, what do you do to like educate your fellow residents on these three forms of housing? Like, do you hold events? Like, are you engaged with them like personally? Because you talk about how like a lot of them are not educated on these, different forms of housing or the differences between them. So I just want to ask, like, what engagement or involvement do you have to educate them yourself?
Well, for community one, this is new. Public housing, public support housing committee. This is a new committee. Under the new leadership of Community Planning Board One, this is something that the chairwoman and the district manager felt was needed. Um, like I said, I kind of got bullied into it because I am the citywide chair with NYCHA, whatnot. So it's basically we have meetings about our residents. So we go into the senior census, but we know a lot of the seniors don't come out. We take advantage of different opportunities. We go into a senior center in the daytime where they have a lunch, speak to them right before lunch. Get your best crowd before lunch. The second best crowd is before bingo. But you can't talk while bingo going on. Because seniors they'll get you. I learned that the hard way. With the younger crowd, you tend to like walking around, you sit down, like you have conversations, like sitting on the benches. It's nice outside. A bunch of guys sitting on the bench. Yo, you know about Section 3? Or you know about the Pacific topic, what's going on? Nah, they want to know. They're not gonna walk away from you because now they can go upstairs and explain it. Like, yo, I need you to take this home because your mom may not understand it coming from me, but you know how to break it down to a lot better than I would. So there's platforms where the information is given out. It's even in the management. It's much and as bad as NYCHA can be a bad actor, they will attempt to even try to put it on their website. But it's the people. It's the people. It's like food. You haven't eaten. You've been on the desert. The first sight of water, you start seeing mirages, thinking it's water. And you run into it, and it's not. But the first sight of water you get, you're gonna make yourself sick to your gut because you're trying to consume all the water you can get. The information is like the water is there. You got to take it gradually because it's so much that you'll get overwhelmed. You'll walk away from it because it's like your brain starts to hurt because you're trying to consume so much, but it's there. It's just, it has to be better strategic plans, and it has to be better ways to get more people enticed to really care about where they live at before it gets to the point where it's too late. And that's what this, excuse me, this did. It opened up a door, a little ladder. Once the people start seeing the places go, Chelsea Elliott downtown. They were supposed to, the people had a focus group, like to put together a focus group of Chelsea Elliott. And thing was to go rad and pack. They went from rad and pack to blowing up the buildings and building new high rises. But the people don't want it. Article by the same people who helped create it, CSS and Legal Aid, built them in the paper over the weekend. About $1.5 billion that the project is costing now, and it was a few hundred million. Now it's 1.5 billion, but the residents don't want it. The residents don't like it. And then a lot of times, me as a resident leader, it might be what I want, and not what the people want. The difference, like I was telling you before, when we did the preliminary vote at my development, my residents kept asking me which way you gonna vote. No, I need to know which way you're gonna vote so I know how to vote with y'all. I would not vote first, because if I said I'm gonna stay Section 9, they all gonna say they're gonna stay Section 9. They gonna follow me. And if I go to the grave, they gonna follow me to the grave. A good 90% of them might jump in with me. And that's just due to the fact of the matter because I don't lie to them. Tell them what it is. I give it to you like it is. You may not want to hear it, but I'd rather be truthful and you be upset, which you'll get over, than me to lie to you and you be mad for a lifetime. You give them false information. So to answer your question, and I hope I am, the information is there. It's just that people gotta want to come out to the street. They sometimes don't. We get the same people. We get the same 15, 90% of them over the age of 70. That's where your support comes from.
I hope, I think that you all can find, think of innovative ways to get more people involved, especially like, are they gonna be the ones, coming up into those neighborhoods and hopefully, you guys are more.
I'm proud of this board. I was ready to quit. I was gonna walk away. I got my resignation letter sitting on my computer. I'm ready to walk away. But to see the spark drive down with the board, gotta be a part. I'm a big mouth. I'm a troublemaker. I know I am. I know I am. If you say my name in New York City politics, they go, that. But you know what? I'm not here to make for nobody to like me. God loves me. As long as I love me, I'm good. I'm good. It's all about the people, man. When you start taking your eyes off of who it's about and you start doing it for yourself, it ain't gonna work. Like I said, I'm afraid of acronyms. I like orange, but I don't look good in all orange. You gotta change it up a little black, a little green in there. But nah, I don't, I'm scared of federal penitentiary. That ain't the place for me. That's what we gotta understand. It's about the people, yes.
May I add something to his question, Mr. Chairman? Thank you. So what would also some of the things that this community has done is that we have also worked with all the committee chairs to add ways and platforms to outreach, which includes social media. For a long time, this community board did not have a social media aspect to it, but we understand that a large part of communities from all walks of life can get a lot of their information or updates from social media. So we do have Our meetings are live streamed on YouTube. We do have a Facebook page. We have an Instagram page. We have a X, or to some people who are maybe a little older, Twitter. So, and we do invite people from open press and journalism students to come and be able to continue to report on different things we do through local Mount Haven Herald and other ways that they've been part of it. So we're excited. And then, like the chairman said, this was for this committee. The full board chair made it part of her emphasis when she took over as leadership, is to make sure we face the major not popular issues, so that we get leaders like Mr. Barber to do things that were happening in people in Congress back in the 1960s, whatever, before they were members of Congress. It's called good trouble, necessary trouble. So making sure that we are that aspects that impact our most vulnerable neighbors are looked at and paid attention to, and then even to those who live in our luxury parts of our district, that their issues are important to us too. All this starts here with the community board, and we have to make sure we take care of people who come from our public housing community to ensure that they are looked out after, because unfortunately they seem that historically have been taken advantage of in one way or another. So we appreciate the leadership and the experience and the conventional wisdom of this committee chair, but also of all the committee members who have this passion in them, whether it's law, whether it's tenant leadership, whether it is community activism, and mixed with Barbara's multiple years of good trouble, necessary trouble. We want to make sure that is something that is definitely talked about, because we do carry the largest voting, not only the voting, largest niger block that any other community board in the borough of the Bronx, and that is extremely important. And we have to excite that people who live there to become the largest voting block, so that their voices continue to matter, like it does to this board. So I hope that answers your question by using always using ways. And then you'll see a newsletter is going to kick off very soon. You're going to see, which is going to be on the eServe list. You're going to see a lot of ways that all our stories and whether it's mom and pop stories to the stories about public housing to activism stories about police and community relations and bail reform and the building the Bronx project, all the things that are impacting from one way or another. You're going to get people on this board which is good about this board, who are on both sides of the issue. But the passion of those issues will be told in one way or another. So I hope I answered your question.
Adding on to what they both were saying, also working in the community, trying to get the attention of a lot of the youth in the community. We have games, right? Have a lot of kids, they like basketball games and different games and whatnot. So we tend to have games, basketball games, but in order to be a part of the game, they have to participate in different things. So we sit down and we talk to them about things that's going on within the community. Okay, and we get them involved in, like, we give out food during the week, or we give out, different things during the week. We get them involved in things like that. We tell them about the importance of voting. We tell them about the their political parties, and the role that they play. And, we put that in their heads. So that's another way that we reach out to them, give them something to think about, something to look into and get involved in. So, what's your comment?
Work on housing sources in the city. Work with the Asian populations, and very curious about my head. Have they are, like, have they done this before with other cities or like that is kind of like, who are they? Like, and do I trust them? I think that's kind of like, yeah, I think that answers it. But that's just from, we're both not from like New York, San Francisco, that's a lot of just like a lot of them.
You guys out in California, y'all got my girl Maxine Waters. I love going to talk to Miss Maxine. Financial committee. Maxine gives up the money. So to welcome. Thank you both for coming. You as well, sir. Appreciate you. Please don't make it your last time. Before you leave, please make sure you check with the district manager. There's other committees that you are pretty sure would love to have you as community members to come in as well to look and have the youth committee. Tomorrow night is the board meeting instead of the last Thursday because of this being Holy Week. They're gonna do it tomorrow night at Lincoln Hospital from 6 to 8 in the auditorium. You're more than welcome to come. Please come because it's the full community board. And you'll get to see the other committees, hear the reports, get updates from the police about the community and whatnot, and see it in its totality. So you guys are more than welcome. Please come out. We'd love to have you. Don't make this your last time. If you see or have any concerns or ideas, I'll give you my number. You can let me know, you can let Mr. Jordan know. And we're open to adding a community-friendly agenda and whatnot. We need participation from you guys. You can't get better without you. We're just pawns on the chessboard. You guys are the knights and the knights, you're the queens, you're the kings, you're the bishops, we're the pawns, you're the rooks. So we're here to defend you, to fight for you, to open the doors and to advocate on your behalf. So as a part of the community, thank you for coming. More than welcome. And we just want better housing for our people in our community, whether it's public housing or whether it's the new assisted living building that went up on 162nd Street on Cortland Avenue. It's not that a lot, and when they say assisted living, what the problem that we've had in this community in the past, they say, oh, we want to come in and build 165 units of supportive housing. We're all for it. The presentation we get, oh, it's a senior building supportive housing with wraparound services. By the time that building gets built and the actual residents of that building is placed, it's not that supportive assisted living senior facility. It went to a mental illness facility with mixed mental illness, HIV, AIDS, 30% of the area medium income, and 70% of AMI. All of this bunched into one. And what about those that need those wraparound services? And the assistant living portion of the building, oh, we'll have a security guard downstairs. That's not assisted living. They keep coming into our communities and they promise us that the facilities that they're building are gonna be for one purpose, and they come out to be for something else. i.e., as we see in the 26 hotels that's built from 138th Street Bridge all the way over to the one by the Major Deacon in the 44th Precinct, which are all shelters. Not saying that we don't need shelters, because everyone deserves someone safe and affordable to live. But be honest to the community. Be honest to what you're actually going to do. Things will be received a lot better, taken a lot better, if the transparency is truly there. You can't keep lying to the people. You can't keep saying that we're going to do this, we're going to do something.
Can I add something to that, Mr. Chairman, possible? I speak from experience. There was a historic church that was torn down a couple blocks from here, which Mr. Barber knows about. And that same scenario played out where we were told that, well, first of all, we tried to save the church, and that wasn't successful. And then we were told many different things about what was going to be placed there. And they said seniors, they said housing for veterans. And at first, they didn't really want to say what type of housing was going there. But through questioning and raising awareness about the church and trying to save it, that's when things started coming out. And we found out that it's going to be a supportive housing building for young adults that have issues with mental health and drug addiction. And so all that to say that this is something that we live every day, and we're not trying to prevent the construction of these buildings, which people do need them. They need the housing, but the ways in which they're presented to us and the extremes that they go to actually get whatever they want done, it's disrespectful to the people that are here, that have to deal with everything that comes with it. So they like to say that we're going to add security guards and things like that, but we're already in an area that's oversaturated with this particular type of housing and people that it brings. So you cannot continue adding more, fuel to the fire, if you will. I'm not a public housing resident, even though I do have friends that live there, and I'm very sympathetic to what they go through. My concern is specifically the supportive housing coming into the area, and I think something needs to be done where it's a little bit more controlled. It isn't, the free for all that it is now. And the last thing I'll say is that, what they tend to build isn't necessarily apartments or a livable space for families and things like that. And I'll reference the situation here. What's coming is single rooms basically. So it's like 300 square foot. It is actually 300 square foot studios, which they don't say. They say, oh, we're making apartments, we're building houses for people that need it. But if you really look into it, it isn't anything sustainable where people can transition out of the supportive housing and into regular buildings. So, we need to control that. In my opinion, the people that live here need to do something about not allowing or fighting harder to get something better for the people that need it, and taking into consideration the people that are here and the things that they go through. So I just wanted to add that to your story because it's very relevant.
Okay. And then who are the private landlords for Rad and Pack? So once a building goes Rad and Pack, the city does what I think is an RFP, which is, tell me what they stand for. No acronyms.
Request for proposal.
There you go. So they send them out, and then usually they're existing building management companies. So like Wavecrest is one of them. Wavecrest already manages numerous private entities, and so they bid for the contract, and then they manage the buildings. People have very interesting ideas about management companies. And I think what Danny was saying, and we see, is that just because you know how to manage a private resident building doesn't mean you know how to manage a public housing building. And those things, I don't know when they do the RFPs, if there's like specific training for converting your management skills for this type of entity for this different type of entity, because they think they're just gonna, do it like any other building, but NYCHA has a different culture and community and things of that nature. So that's who tends to manage RAD PAC, which is like, they're both the same thing. And then if it's a trust, then NYCHA's still managing and there's no private person or entity. I don't know if we like them or not, but I think the consensus is a lot of people are not big fans, but it is the fastest way to get money for repairs, which is like what people are like in desperate need for.
Mr. Chairman, before you adjourned, at the request of the full board chair, it is before our next board meeting, and this could be emailed to the district manager, is that each committee needs to come up with 3 actionable items that the committee will be working on to ensure that could be evaluated by the executive committee in the upcoming meetings. So 3 actionable items. Like, for example, we talked about the evaluation of the trust factor, the PAC conversion, and Section 9, and whether or not the committee is going to advocate on behalf of the residents for either of those 3 or another piece, and if there are other items that this committee under its creation mission statement can provide the district manager, then the full board, the 3 actionable items. Each of these committees that were created were required to be able to show actionable items and how to engage the residents and who live within the boundaries of Community Board 1. As we spoke about specifically about why this committee was created, there was not, besides the tenants associations and the CCOP and the district CCOPs, there was never, I don't believe there was many other entities that were sitting like in a quasi-government position like the community board that was sitting to represent and advocate and have actual items for public housing. And then there was another, this community board has never also dealt with how we engage on or set a standard about what as folks who are looking to develop supportive housing in our district, what that standard would be. We talked about, like, for example, where the unfortunate tactics that supportive housing providers did when they wanted to create supportive housing in our district. It changed 4 times before it actually came onto a final model. So there may be a standard that this committee has to say, if you are looking to develop supportive housing and get a lot of support from this community board, you need to start with this standard. Whether it is 24-hour security, the 24-hour security cannot be only contained into the brick and mortars or to the building itself, but it should be being able to walk the immediate neighborhood or grounds to ensure that the residents who are part of that supportive housing, especially with supportive housing with individuals who are in need of have mental health issues, are being good neighbors in the community. So it is those are just examples, Mr. Chairman and ladies and gentlemen of the committee, that the expectation for the full board chair is that you have a minimum of 3 actual items that could be shared at the preceding community board meeting, and it can be and then be approved by the executive committee, because this is a community board of action, progressive action, or some say necessary trouble, good trouble, so that some of us do well in a very positive sense to positively impact our community. And so this remind the chairman and this committee that request by Chairperson Aliato. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So that means, I believe that the action item will be RAD PAC plus legislation, section, which we have already agreed on, that we will put together corresponding letter to our elected officials and the mayor of New York City why it's imperative to support public housing at Section 9. And although they feel the funding streams are a lot more secure, that if everyone, all branches of the government stepped up and played their true part to its constituents, we could probably save public housing. And the other, as a bonus, I think we can come up with a letter, big man, for
The money?
supportive housing.
Oh,
That when supportive housing is pitched, when it's initiated into the community, is what actually goes in. And that in order to receive letters of support from the support of the Public Housing Committee, the level of transparency and accountability has to be to the people, the community where you're coming to do the. It's not the people giving you the transparency and accountability. It's you giving back because we're shaking their lives up. We're making promises to them and not keeping our promises. And i.e., we live here. You're just coming in to build here.
I also would love for us to invite whoever these supportive housing people are. I don't know who they are. I haven't been on the board. There has to be a city agency that oversees supportive housing. I understand
That's,
nonprofit. I know the,
Support housing. There's an agency that supports. I gotta look it up. I want to get the name correct. That's for support for that. But then the funding streams, depending what type of supportive housing there is, it comes from multiple agencies. So it's
how about the one
right.
for the church?
Yes. So it could be HRA. It was multiple entities. So in the pot to create affordable housing, supportive housing, depending on how many units is created, there may be several pots.
So
The
the reason-
Office of Mental Health, the Office of HRA, Human Resource Administration, and there are several agencies.
What I am trying to understand is and create, safety concerns for people, and we need to be able to address that with somebody. I don't know who that person is, but somebody is in charge of something that we can talk to about that. I don't know who this person is in particular,
the
but
only person I could think of is Maria Torres Sprinkle.
who's that?
She's deputy mayor for housing.
Right. So in reference to this project, there was a developer who a nonprofit organization, social service agency that came before Jericho project that came before the this board on several different occasions and presented the project as of right. And
They only came
this
after we raised awareness about it. They didn't want to show up.
So they came into thank you. So they came up to be able to advise at the request of the board about what this project entails, because in the beginning, like your colleague from the committee said, is that it was several versions of, in my understanding, reading the minutes, there were several versions of this project before it became the final version of supportive housing for younger mental residents who are battling mental health conditions. So if that's something that the chair and the committee is asking for, to bring them back to engage them on this particular project that's already full-fledged going forward, fully funded, that's a request that we could entertain
Yeah.
for going forward. But then if you want to know who is responsible in the universe for supportive housing, period, there are organizations that are out there for supportive housing, and there are, which can explain the whole supportive housing arena and the different types that are in certain communities,
That's
and so on, and so that we can. So I'm saying that because this committee should set a standard. Don't come to Community Board 1 asking for a letter of support for supportive housing if you don't fit this model that we have for any more new ones coming into our community.
So I hear.
And so I want to say that because I think that what's happened is that folks come in and say, this is what we want to put here, and then we don't have a standard. And I think that any community that is concerned about what we're concerned about as far as supportive housing, whether it is dealing with one population or another, not putting any stigma on any population, I think it's important for us to say this is our standard, because that we know truly how, when folks come into here, they won't even consider coming into the boundaries of the board unless you have a standard, which again, there could be many different examples. So I think that's helpful to hear from what supportive housing looks like in other communities, whatever that may be. But then we can bring back Jericho so they can re-explain a project that's already been given a green light and likely moving forward.
So the reason why I'm very excited about Jericho is because to create a standard, I need to understand how things function, right? It's already here, so I can reverse operate and then have better questions for the entities above that. Because the big people don't really know what delivery looks like, you know what I mean? Because Jericho gets money from all these different entities, and then he, she, or they are going to be like, well, they didn't give us money for that. They didn't give us money for that. They didn't give us money for that. So whoever is above them, whatever agency, we can be like, are you giving them sufficient money for the following? Because we spoke to an entity that's already in our district, and they're stating they weren't funded properly in order to create all these things that we need.
But there's no standard yet. So what are we asking them for money for? What? If there's no standard that we as a board says that says that. So that's what I'm suggesting, that we create the standard. Why? But it's feasible because we say so. No, that's not. That's not.
Well, what we're stating is, you're coming into our community using words like supportive housing. What forms of support are you giving to go along with the housing?
Do you guys know what Jericho is giving?
What is Jericho?
Or whatever organization here, do you guys know what it's giving? Do you know the hours of operations?
Yes, it was all that was all presented to the board, and that's so.
What's that mean?
So I want to. There's no letter. That project is a
standard
for us to create standard.
So that's what I'm saying. We invited the Committee for Supportive Housing that says these are examples of models of supportive housing in whatever communities, Long Island to Mexico to wherever. And then I'm just being very, weird with my examples. And then when we come back in and we say, okay, we like this, and this to be our standard. Now we can invite the organizations that are here and say, this board has, let me just finish my example, please. This board has an example of this is what we want to be our standard. Can you meet this? And they can say, well, no, we already funded, we don't need to meet it. Or then we just use that for future stuff that go forward and say that this is what we want. That's just only my example.
But we don't accept it, because even though it's already funded, you're coming into a community and you're bringing in a program that you're using word like supportive. What kind of support? Will it just be support with a 24-hour security? Will it be supportive services with case managers? So on, so on. What is that hours of operation?
We don't even know what these people have. Do you know what their hours are?
Yes.
What is it? Nothing 20. Did you guys hear 24 hours for nothing besides security?
But I was saying that there are projects of as of right where there is no, so you understand that. So as of right, we are informing you, this is the model that we're reading, the basic model we're meeting by our funders to provide supportive housing. We got somebody who's going to give us the land, we're going to build. The community board did not have a standard in place to say we wouldn't. I don't care if that's all right.
Understand. I just think I don't understand. I don't have enough knowledge about supportive housing to articulate or even brainstorm a standard, because I don't even understand the projects that are in our entity. I don't know examples of other projects. I don't know what they're not doing that we want them to do. And I think that just requires further research. Thus far, this committee have talked a lot about public housing, and we have not had people come in or inform us about supportive housing. And I know there's something that happened before I got on the board, but I wasn't there for that project, nor have I read the minutes like you have for that project in order to be informed about creating of a standard. I love to create things, obviously, that's like the nerd in me, but because I feel like I don't fully understand it, only as a lawyer who prefers people to supportive housing, and I'm a big supporter of supportive housing, but I do understand that if it's not done right, it impacts the community.
So,
Sorry, since you're a big supporter of supportive housing, what we're basically stating is that we're not against supportive housing.
We just want better standards for it.
We just want better standards. If you're telling us we're coming into your community and we're gonna build 122 units of supportive housing, then what kind of supportive housing is it? Is it just a security guard? Or is it social services? Or is it medical facilities on site? What kind of supportive housing?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. I want better standards, but I need to understand what the current standard is so I can just talk about implementing it to be better. That's why I'm saying I don't know. Yeah, and they're inconsistent. Long Island might have something authentic, but I don't even know what one of them have. Even in the district, all the supportive housings are not even equal.
Brand new white building just built, supportive housing. You could go between 162nd Morris Avenue and Park Avenue. Same exact style building, supportive housing, security guard 24 hours. Staff leaves at 4 o'clock to go home. Then if you go a little further up, there's another one on 160, forgot the other street and whatnot. Then if you go to 165, you got Acacia, who got the shelter that took over the old furniture place and made it the shelter. So it's all of these things, and everybody say supportive. No one is supporting them, and the people are just harassing the community. Thank you. The people are harassing the community. So it's about that time. So.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, what I would suggest is that I will, two things that I can do. I can bring in this agency that can discuss supportive housing 101, so you get an understanding the types of supportive housing, whether it's HIV and AIDS, whether it is mental health, whether it is for young people aging out of foster care, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you could look at the different types. And then we can look at examples of also how supportive housing is here and in the South Bronx, to how it may look on 96th Street, how it may look in Long Island, how it may look in other places, so that we can establish, have a clear understanding of what supportive housing is, what is it, when you have housing and it's supportive, what does that mean? What does it look like? What is it, that 101? And then we can determine from that a helpful conversation to decide again, what is a standard. I think to invite Jericho House back in where they don't have to, in my opinion, except for invitation, because their project is already moving forward, green lighted, and I don't know if there's anything we can change in that entity. We can say we had a second look at it, and maybe this is something we want to look at, and we'd like you to look at this, look at that. I think that's something that we have to do some more homework in, but I just don't want to. I don't want to lead the community to believe that this project that came almost a year or 3 years ago to the full board that something could happen, but they've been able to do a lot of things. So I want to say I think it's a better thing to give a clear understanding to the committee, yes. and then we want to invite Jericho House, so we can bring it back. I'm sorry.
I said as long as I'm not.
So if you don't mind, so we can get better insight of the whole mechanism of the different types of supportive housing, that will help us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
So I. Yeah. In fact, I think but we are, yeah, we're doing a kind of a survey just to see what the community, what their needs are in terms of location. So like something like tonight, like what. So, for example, really feel that there's a need for community member that could be great ones, about supportive housing or about public housing, what their options are for the public. And that's something that I would, work really on our calendar. So, I just wanted to see if, number one, if there's an advocate or the survey, for the associations. So I'm not sure if, what the best way to distribute that information is to residents, if that's through flyers. If that's through flyers, I know there's aren't that effective, but I can definitely send like a link. I can send like papers. It's up to you, but I just want to see.
Call me,
Okay.
call me, and we can set up something, to get you, respectively on the calendar for Bronx South District meeting for the month of April.
And what we learned is flyers with QRC codes where people can go to do
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 like that.
Yeah.
Where they can do a survey, QR codes is extremely fast.
Do you have a card? We have a comms committee, right?
If we already, yeah, so Sanji's already communicating with us. She's recommending papers before.
PSA 7 is holding the next meeting April 11th at 5 p.m. Community Center, 156 feet, Fort Lauderdale. And very interesting stuff that y'all talk about. They did talking about here, public safety among other things. Okay, but one issue that's come up in public housing is the station of housing police back in the housing. So
Have a Herman, we talking sensible. That's
sensible.
that's not sensible, because if NYCHA doesn't have the money, NYCHA. Herman,
They created housing police in 1952, one reason only. The Constitution of NYPD said that they could not control individual buildings. So they created housing police. Then we go, they pull them down with the merger. Now you figure it out, but you still got housing police when they created the PSAs.
if NYCHA built those precincts,
Mm-hmm,
NYCHA paid for them and built them.
mm-hmm.
NYCHA can't afford to fix the properties of the apartments upstairs. Then NYCHA's not gonna be able to fix the spaces for them to go back in. Most of
The place is still there.
Second.
The space is still there, but it's got a lot of people on it.
Discussion, on the motion, discussion.
Attention. Have it, meeting's adjourned. Listen, I ain't trying to take something home. Scott, you wanna take something home?
Yes.
CSS. Goldman.
She was like,